We don't celebrate because of circumstances. We celebrate because of God's faithfulness. Years ago, a youth pastor invited 5 of us up to the mountains to do a retreat with him. And as we went up to this retreat, he said, listen, we're going to do something fun in the morning. We're all going to go out and play paintball. Now, I had never played paintball, but I heard it wasn't that painful unless it was cold. Now, what I was excited about was that my brother was also playing paintball. And any of you who have a younger brother, you're always glad to throw, hit, or shoot anything at them whenever possible just to hurt them a little. And so I was excited because I knew at some point I was going to chase my brother down. And he was going down for outgrowing me. See, he was my younger brother. So until I was 14, I was taller than he was. And then he became 6'1". And I quit growing. I'm not sure what happened there. I think it was the coffee. But, so I was excited about going out. So we wake up the next day. It has snowed on the mountain. The paintballs, I think, were about 20 degrees. The people that worked at the place were crazy, psychotic hillbillies. And so we went there and we started playing paintball. And of course, my brother, what he did is he basically got everyone to try to kill me with a paintball. And so I'll never forget, I was down the mountain. They were up on top of the mountain and down the hill. And I was behind a wall. There was kind of a wall around me, small wooden wall. And they were just pegging this wall. And paint is just flying over my head. And I'm thinking, I'm getting irritated. So I'm thinking, this isn't fair. My friend Pedro that went to Palm Beach Atlantic College, he's behind a pine tree, and he's just standing behind the pine tree just shooting. And my brother is over here on the other side, and he's just shooting. And I'm thinking, I got to get... So finally, I hear Pedro's gun jam. We had these guns that you had to, pump, and when they would jam, they made this noise. I don't know how to make it, but it sounded like that. Anyway, so it was just this fun. Have y'all ever played paintball with those guns? Now you guys use automatic. They got these feeders, and it's just not as fun. Anyway, so they were up there, and I hear that noise. And so I knew Pedro's going to jam. So I popped my head up. At this point, Pedro fixed his gun. He popped his head out. Now, back in the old days, you didn't wear full facial body armor to play paintball. You wore maybe goggles, hopefully goggles. So he was wearing goggles, and I shot Pedro right in the forehead. Immediately, a goose egg appeared on his head. Both of his eyes turned black, which is funny because he was the music minister at his church. So he actually went back to church, raccoon-looking, with his eyes all, just his whole forehead, eyes, everything. So I hit him, and he stopped. My brother's gun jammed, and he looked at me and went, "Oh!" and started running up the hill, and I thought, this is my chance. Finally, all those years of torture, I'm going to get him. So I ran after him as hard as I could. I was running up the hill. I had visions of grandeur. I'm getting ready to take him out. Well, the teams weren't very fair. I just want to say this as a caveat to what I'm about to say. One of the guys who worked at the place, who for a living played paintball, was on my brother's team. I just want to say that ahead of time. And he didn't have one of these guns that made noise before you shot. He had a slingshot and paintballs that I think he had frozen in the freezer the night before. As I ran up the hill in this big coat I had, apparently it exposed my keister, and he launched that thing, and I felt intense pain. And I cried out, "Woo-hoo-hoo!" I do cry out like Goofy. Woo-hoo-hoo! That's me. My brother turned around and thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He got shot much worse later. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So I thought about this as I was talking about this idea of celebrating today, and I was thinking about this idea. One of the reasons we don't celebrate is because of how we think. And without realizing it, what's happened to many of us is we've gotten lazy in our thinking. We've allowed not only, and everybody, by the way, everybody, psychologists talk about negative thinking, okay? And as Christians, we talk about negative thinking. That's part of it. But there's a type of thinking that's worse for believers than negative thinking. It is the thinking that is destroying our world today. And it's selfish thinking. Because the truth is that you and I can think positively, and we can do what we can to do impression management and make everybody think that we're being nice, when the truth is we're just being selfish and self-centered. We might even put a spiritual face on it and be able to fake it sometimes. But it's still selfishness. And so what we need to do is look at our lives and say, God, would you reveal my heart? And I'll share one of those stories in just a minute. Here's the first point today. We need to take every thought captive. Paul in 2 Corinthians in this section is using war language because the truth is you and I are in a battle. But it's not against people. We often think it's people. If you drive with me, you will notice that I think it's people. They do not know how to drive. I'm going to teach them. I wish I had a Mr. Microphone. You remember Mr. Microphone? You could talk and it would come out in somebody else's radio. Wouldn't it be awesome when that person runs that stop sign and pulls out in front of you? You used to say, "You shouldn't have done that." Alas, we don't have that ability yet. I'm working on it. But what we really fight with is not the people around us. So often it's with how we think. So let's look at 2 Corinthians 10:4-5. Here's what it says. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And, listen to this, we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Just like a camp, if you were in a camp and all of a sudden the enemy snuck in, you would want to take them captive. You wouldn't want to just let them wander around and do whatever they want. Listen, so many times our thoughts can turn the wrong way. They become selfish. They sneak their way into our camp. And we have to say, God, would you be in charge of my thinking? Would you remind me of what this looks like? So I honestly believe that God wanted me to get an illustration for today. I'm going to tell you what happened last night, which is hilarious. I had already studied for the sermon. I was ready. I know these things in my head, and God wanted to make sure I knew it in my heart, right? You know things in your head, and then you go, yeah, I needed that lesson again. So I'm on the way to church last night. I left earlier than I usually do. And so I'm headed out early. I get part of the way to the church last night for Saturday night service at First Baptist Church of Port St. John. And as I'm on the way there, I realize I don't have my phone. Hey, Macarena. And I don't have my phone, right? And you ever do this? Looking for your phone, right? Maybe you don't. I do that because I'm weird. So I realize, I don't have my phone. And so I turn around, I drive back home. So now I'm already about 17 minutes later than I was originally. And then I thought, oh no, we're doing that song tonight. I need a straw hat, and our straw hat was gone. But you know what? No fear. No fear. Right next to my house on Highway 50, near my house, is the Dollar General store. Thank you, General. And the Dollar General store, my Dollar General store is awesome. Let me tell you why. Because nobody else shops there but me. I cannot tell you the number of times I've walked through that Dollar General, and it's me and who's ever at the cash register. I'm like, what's up? They're like, what's up? Good to see you again. I'm like, yeah, because this is the only place I shop. Because I like no one to be there. No line. It's awesome. So I walk in, I'm thinking, I'm going to be late, but it's okay. Kids, you stay in the car. Emergency brake. Ricky, you're driving if something happens. All right. Run in, I see immediately goofy straw hat. I'm like, oh, there it is, I got it. Grab the straw hat, come around the corner. There are 5 or 6 people in line. Now, if I'd been paying attention, I would have heard this in my head. Boop. This is a test. For the next 3 minutes, God will be making sure that you understand what you're teaching on this weekend. This is only a test. If this isn't an actual emergency. So I'm like, I gotta go. Come on, people. I'm hoping the lady in front of me who has got a cart. Nobody gets a cart in Dollar General. She's got a cart with stuff in it. I'm holding a hat. I'm kind of hoping for the, oh. No, none of that. Nobody even looks at me. The lady in the front of the line goes to pay. The guy says, that'll be something and 13 cents. She says, I have exact change. Yeah, she paid with this green stuff and some coins. I've never seen that before. But she had this purse that was bigger than my backpack. It was like this big. I think she climbed in it, began rooting for change. Now, you've got to know what starts to go on in my head. It is, this lady knows I'm in a hurry. Why can't she be considerate to all these people behind her? Just use your debit card, lady, or give them 20, whatever. I'll pay for it, right? And immediately, in the back of my head, I heard, take every thought captive. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm good at this. Dear Jesus. Dear God, Father of the baby Jesus, would you help me? I said, Lord, would you help me to take Father, help me to love that person and see them like you see them instead of in my way. My selfishness. This is my line. You're in my store. Next lady goes, I promise you. She went to pay, and her husband says, don't you have a few pennies? And I almost laughed out loud, but the lady goes, no, it's okay. Like that. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Right? So then it's my turn. I get to the front of the line. I'm debit carding it, so it's going to take about 4 seconds. Beep. Shweek. Gone, right? Beep. I've never had trouble with this card. Don't you love that you have to tell everyone? Attention, entire store. I have never had trouble with this debit card ever before. I swiped it. I tried everything. I tried the fast swipe, the slow swipe. I tried the rub the slide thing. If I thought that lifting one leg and sticking my tongue out would help, I would have went. If you thought that, you would, wouldn't you? Because now there's people behind me. And I know what they're thinking because I know what I was thinking when I was back there getting ready to be where I am now. Dude, don't you have another card or something? So I look at the lady, and of course I've already assumed what she said. Oh, by the way, I give the card to the guy. It says, give to person after 12 times. Give to dude behind counter. Here, dude. I am not kidding. He punches the whole number in, which they've made it now where you can't read. Have you noticed they make it harder and harder to read the number? What in the world? Just give me a white card with black numbers. Maybe it's because I'm old. I probably should realize this. He types in every number. I'm not kidding. The machine then says, swipe your card. He reaches over and swipes my card. It does not work. Still. Isn't that why you punched the numbers in? And I'm wanting to help him, right? And then I once again laugh at myself because I'm irritated with him because my dumb card doesn't work. And I'm like, you know what? He's also God's. Lord, help me to see that poor guy behind the counter who's trying. So he gets a plastic bag. Now 2 other employees come and are standing behind him having a discussion about how a credit card works. He gets a plastic bag and swipes it, but doesn't push the button to finish because the lady behind me, by the way, I didn't mention this. I looked over at her because I'm thinking, oh no. And I said, oh ma'am, I am so sorry. Okay, and I'm thinking in her head she wants to kill me. She says, oh, I don't have anywhere to go tonight. It's no problem. Take your time. I thought I knew what she was thinking. Now, truthfully, she might have been like, no, take your time. And inside going, get out of the way, dude. I don't know. But we try to think about whatever people think. So they have this discussion, and then the lady behind me goes, how does that work? Before they push the button, he says, well, I think the way it works. And he goes into a description of friction or something. I don't know. Viscosity. I have no idea what he was talking about. And at this point, I'm like, let me go. It will not know. We will not let you go. Let me go. Right? So I get myself, I walk in, and I'm just laughing. I remember thinking as I walked to the car, like normally I would have been all irritated and frustrated and probably ran to the car. And I got the thing. I said, oh, thank you so much. At that point, I just took my time. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm late. I'm late for a very important date, you know? And so I just sauntered out to the car. My kids are like, why did it take you 10 minutes? I'm like, I don't know. Nothing worked. And I just laughed on the way to church last night because I realized this. Listen, we all struggle with our thoughts. We all struggle with not only how we think, but how we think about other people. And even, you ready for this? We struggle with how we think other people are thinking about us. That hurts my head. And yet we need to realize, number one, in the middle of all that, God absolutely loves you, and you're in a battle. And He wants you to care about the people around you, not get in such a hurry doing all the things you have to do that you don't take time to love the people around you. Sometimes we're rushing our kids to get them from one place to the other. And come on, you kids, we're going to have fun when we go to Disney World. Let's go! Right? Get in the car, we're going to church. Talking about Jesus. Oh, hey, Pastor. All the way to church, right? You're, hey, you kids, hey. Oh, Pastor, hey. What's he doing in the parking lot today? You don't think he saw me, did you? Philippians 4 gives us some advice. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything, as Bob and Bill and Ted would say, not Bob and Doug. Bob and Doug would say, okay. Bill and Ted would say, excellent. Excellent. Anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you've learned or received or heard from me or seen me put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. We do what we do so often because we think what we think. Listen, I honestly, when I'm driving, something inside of me thinks that the other people on the road are trying to kill me or slow me down. I have to fight that wrong thinking. Gentlemen, ladies, not everyone on the highway is trying to kill you. Some are. Some are. But if we started to think the right way and realize that person driving who just drove badly, you know what? I cut somebody off by accident last week. You know, we go back and we think, have I ever driven poorly? Oh, no, not I. Right? And when we begin to think that other people need grace and other people need God's love, and when we think about the things that are admirable, when we think about the things that are wonderful, when we think about the things that are excellent, when we look at a picture from the Hubble Space Telescope and we realize, God, you are so awesome, it's beyond anything. Would you help me to focus on those things instead of being irritated when I'm driving 4 minutes in Titusville traffic? I never forget moving from Miami to Titusville, and people were frustrated stopping at a light, and there were 3 cars at the light. I'm like, Titusville traffic, 3 cars. In Miami, there were 300 cars. Our perspective changes when we back away and we say, God, help me to see life and take captive the things and see them the way you do. Be true to yourself. Help others. Make each day your masterpiece. Make friendship a fine art. Drink deeply from good books, especially the Bible. Build a shelter against a rainy day. Give thanks for your blessings and pray for guidance every day. John Wooden, I believe one of the best coaches ever. That's great advice. Number 2, expect a harvest. Years ago when I was little, I'll never forget my parents taking me up to North Carolina. My grandparents had moved to North Carolina and had property in Fort Mill. They had about 5 acres that they would get ready for potatoes. And I never forget with my grandfather, I probably wasn't I was younger than 5 for sure. And I remember my grandfather, he was cutting up pieces of potatoes, and handing us potatoes, and we were following the tractor that was plowing the ground, and we were putting these potatoes in the ground, and then we'd close the ground back up. And then I don't remember how much after it was. I'd have to look up how long it takes a potato to grow. But we drove back up there, And my grandfather gave us bags, and we followed the tractor again, and this time we picked up giant potatoes and threw them in the bag. Cool looking. By the way, when you've never done potatoes, you think potatoes in the grocery store are weird looking? You follow a tractor and watch those. Those are some wacky looking, Mickey Mouse looking potatoes you're throwing in there. And I remember following that and thinking, listen, my grandfather knew that when he planted something really small, that one day a lot more was going to be there. Listen, what you plant today will reap a harvest tomorrow, so be careful what you plant. Why do you want to be hateful and always in a hurry and irritated and frustrated when today you have an opportunity, even in the busyness of life, to plant good things? Galatians 6 says it this way: let us not become weary in doing good. You know why it says that? Because sometimes we get tired of doing good. Sometimes you do something right and people criticize you anyway and you go, hey. But let's not become tired in doing good. Why? Because at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we opt the opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially those belonging to the family of believers. Don't just celebrate when everything's smooth. Celebrate when you know you're being obedient. Listen, some days we just have to take Dora's advice. She says, just keep swimming. Dory, right? Just keep swimming. Dora would say, get your backpack. Who came up with that song? Backpack, backpack. Don't celebrate when things are easy. Celebrate just being faithful. God, I did what you wanted me to do today, and I celebrate. Thank you that you are faithful. I see no results. I have teenagers. I see no results. But Lord, I'm just going to keep planting. I'm just going to keep planting. I'm just going to keep doing what you want me to do. So that 3 years from now, we're celebrating your neighbor coming to Christ, your friend that you've been praying for, your spouse. But we have to have faith. Jesus said, because you have so little faith, I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it'll move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Now, this doesn't mean you can just pray whatever you want and God will give it to you. God's not a genie God where you say, God, here's what I'd like. You do what I want, and then I'll love you. Instead, the way we need to speak to God is, God, would you give me your desires? And when you pray inside of God's will, when you pray with his desires, with faith, he accomplishes much. I had a lady last night come to me. Her and her husband have been married over 30 years. And she told me last night, she said, my husband's coming to church. I said, really? I haven't met him. When's the last time y'all went to church together? Never. Never been to church together, and he's coming tonight. That's scary. Never been to church together, and he's coming tonight. Listen, you never know when, who you prayed for, who you've prayed for, who you've blessed, who you've gone out of your way just to love. Even when things don't seem like anything's happening, even when it seems like winter time, you never know when those seeds will be planted. All you're responsible for is doing what God's told you to do. Whether that's planting or watering, it's God, the Bible says, who makes things grow. I'm going to skip to the last point. You guys can read that thing. Number 3, give thanks. Give thanks. Psalms 118, 1 through 8 says this: give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, his love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, his love endures forever. When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord, and he brought me to a spacious place. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. You ever been afraid? Remember that God's with you. What can mere mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He is my helper. I look in triumph on my enemies. It's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. Everybody believes that last part. But are we really going to trust him when we're afraid, when we don't understand, when we don't know what's going on? Because his love endures forever. Over the last 3 years, I've seen people who've been praying for their friends. I've seen people who took those next steps of faith. Maybe they had never served, and they came and served at a harvest festival, or they never given blood, and they said, well, I'm going to give blood, try to help somebody. Or they never reached out to their neighbor, and they said, I'm going to look for opportunities to reach out. Maybe they never went to a small group, and they said, I'm going to try a small group. Maybe they never took the step of faith through baptism. They never were baptized as a believer, and they said, I'm ready to be baptized as a believer, and they took that next step of faith. Whatever that step is, I look back and I see all of those things, and my prayer is 3 years from now that some of the people that you're praying for and going out of your way for, that you'll begin to see that harvest, and you'll be able to say, look what God did. I remember Eric talking about that, and look, my brother-in-law, I never thought he would come to Christ. And yet look what God has done. 1 Thessalonians says this, rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Listen, I know it's easy to get discouraged. Sometimes when you're doing what's right, it's easy to get discouraged. The enemy does not want you to think the right things. He wants you to think selfishly. He wants you to think about your stuff. He wants you to think negatively. But when you say, God, I just want to be faithful to what you've given me. It reminds me of this story that I heard years ago. On the West Coast, there was a man walking down the beach, and the night before, the tide had come up and left starfish all over the beach. And as this old man walked down the beach, he said, oh, what a mess. All these starfish everywhere. They're just going to all die. As he came down the beach, there was a young man, and he was picking up starfish and throwing them into the ocean. The old man came up to him and said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm saving starfish. He said, are you crazy? There are starfish for miles up and down the beach. You can't help these starfish. The young man just looked at it, didn't say a word, reached down, picked up a starfish, threw it into the ocean. He looked back at the old man and he said, it helped that one. Listen, you can't do everything to help everyone, to do everything. You will wear yourself out. But you can do something. You just need to be obedient to what God has called you to do. It might be as simple as calling somebody and say, how you doing? I've missed you. It might be as easy as sending somebody a Facebook note or sending somebody an encouraging note. Maybe you see something on Facebook and you think, oh, they're having a rough day. And instead of just going, they really shouldn't post it, they're having a rough day on Facebook. Instead, we send them a note, hey, I just want you to know I was praying for you. We go out of our way. Listen, somebody went out of their way when Billy Graham came into church and it was full and he and his friend walked out. Somebody went out of their way to say, whoa, come here, I got a seat for you, to find Billy Graham as a young man a seat so he could hear Billy Sunday and give his life to Christ. My mom told me she was in the first bus ministry. I found out later she was being sarcastic. I don't know where she got that from or where I got that from. She said she was involved in the first bus ministry because there was a family that would walk to church past her house, and one day they came by her and her sister and said, would you like to come to church with us? And these two people would go past home after home on all these farms way out in the hollers of Alabama, and they would pick up child after child after child and say, come with us to church, and they would follow to church. And my grandparents said, sure, we're not going. And my mom gave her life to Christ one day because of those people who just were faithful with walking some little girls to church. What has God called you to do? We can celebrate not because we see all that God's doing, but we can celebrate because we can say, God, I want to be faithful with what you've given me. And when you and I are faithful, he blesses it. If you're here today and you've never given your life to Jesus Christ, before you leave today, we don't have a formal invitation where everybody comes to the front. Instead, what we do is after service, I'll be here. I'd be glad to pray with you. Maybe you're saying, I want to give my life to Jesus Christ today. Maybe you're here today, and as a Christian, the truth is you've been selfish and self-centered, and maybe today you just need to be honest with God. Maybe you've had a lot of stinking thinking, and you need to say, God, I surrender my thoughts to you. Would you help me to take everything captive? Let's go to the Lord in prayer today. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for this morning. Lord, thank you that we can have fun and we can celebrate, and you've given us a sense of humor to help us, to remind us of things. But Father, thank you also, Lord, that you can help us to take every thought captive. It's not by our strength.